On June 4, 1923, a farm boy named Roy Rucker was born under the wide desert sky of Mesa, Arizona. As he later put it, "I was born at the Mesa Ranch School." His parents, Simeon and Eula, had married as the First World War began, and they built their family on the land they loved. By the time baby Roy arrived, he already had 2 older brothers, Herb, nearly 8, and Louis, almost 6. Roy's father, Simeon, a tall, broad-shouldered grown man in a work shirt and a brimmed hat, had a good job as the manager of the Mesa Ranch School, 2.5 miles east of town. It was a grand place. First opened in 1902, it became the Mesa Ranch School in 1921, a college preparatory school where wealthy families back east sent their sons to ride horses, play polo, and learn the ways of the western frontier. 20 to 30 young men studied there, among them famous names like Henry Cabot Lodge and John Randolph Hearst. Roy's mother, Eula, a warm-grown woman in a flour-dusted apron, kept a busy house full of children. And here, among the barns and corrals and the golden desert dust of Arizona, little baby Roy, a small boy in denim overalls and a flat cap, began his childhood on the ranch, feeding the woolly lambs at his father's side. Roy grew up in a house full of brothers, with just one little sister to share it. His grown mother, Eula, spent her days in the endless work of keeping a farmhouse in a time long before modern conveniences. The hardworking woman washed all the family's clothing by hand, heating the water over a fire outside, and made her own soap from lye and hog lard. Every Saturday night, the whole family took turns bathing in the same washtub, set before the warm glow of the wood stove. But the family also carried a quiet sorrow. Before baby Roy had even turned 1 year old, a sudden and tragic accident took the life of a young neighbor boy who had come to visit the farm. In those days, there were no counselors to help a family grieve. They leaned on their faith, and they simply went on. The story was rarely spoken of again, a shadow the grown-ups carried in silence. Yet life on the dusty desert farm in southern Arizona continued, as it always did, with chores at dawn and the rhythm of the seasons. Little baby Roy, in his tiny overalls, crawled and toddled after his big brothers through the corrals, feeding the woolly lambs and chasing the chickens across the yard. He was far too small to understand the weight the grown-ups carried, and just old enough to know that he was deeply loved. As little Roy grew from a baby into a small boy, the farm filled with life. His baby sister Ruth arrived, and another brother, Bud, came along in 1929, the year the Great Depression began. Yet the hard-working Rucker family, with their milk, eggs, and big garden, always had enough. Roy's grown father, Simeon, was known across Mesa as a man who helped others, active in his church and community. On the boy's 4th birthday, when a fire broke out at the ranch school, the strong father Simeon grabbed a hose and battled the flames until the fire department arrived, though the blaze still destroyed 3 cottages. On Saturday nights, the family rattled into their desert town in a black Model T Ford. Roy's mother, Eula, sold her eggs and bought groceries while Simeon visited with neighbors on the corner. One evening, the little 5-year-old boy in his denim overalls wandered alone into the picture theater and was terrified as galloping horses charged across the screen and shadows seemed to creep through the dark doorway. When the police helped his frantic parents find the boy, he was flooded with relief. Soon, a kind caretaker named Conway began taking little Roy to the 10-cent movies by horse and buggy behind a gentle old horse named Tango. It was a cold, sleepy ride home, but the farm boy had fallen in love with the movies. Sometime in the early 1930s, when Roy was a 10-year-old boy, his grown parents packed up for a grand adventure, a journey clear across the country to visit family in Washburn, Tennessee. The boy Roy, his little brother Bud, and his sister Ruth piled in, while the older boys, Louis and Herb, stayed behind to run the farm. Their car was a black 1930 Model A Ford, the model that had replaced the older Model T just a few years before, and it had a small fold-out rumble seat in the back, where the 3 young children rode out in the open air. But that little rumble seat left no room at all for luggage, so the family strapped a large wooden travel trunk, packed with all of their clothing, onto the running board of the black Model A. The distance from Mesa to Tennessee was over 1,800 miles, and the Model A's top speed was just 65. With no interstate highways, only long, dusty roads, the trip took many days. They battled overheating engines and punctured tires, and the children bounced along in the open rumble seat with no shelter from the sun or wind but the hats on their heads. Roy remembered little of the scenery, only that he was sick for days, and that somewhere along that long, bumpy road, the wooden trunk full of the family's clothing was lost for good. Back home in Arizona, the boyhood of young Roy was full of family, camping trips up in the pines, picnics with cousins, and endless chores in the garden and the barn. Sim and Eula had bought 25 acres on Southern Avenue, And then, in November of 1935, when Roy was just a 12-year-old boy, a life-changing event arrived right next door. The Johnson family moved onto a small parcel a quarter-mile to the west. Clara and Charles Johnson and their 3 children, Mary, Betty, and young Charles. The 2 families quickly became friends, and between the young boy Roy and young Mary, something began to bud that would blossom for a lifetime. But Roy was a shy little boy. One day he rode his horse home from the Salt River, having scrambled up a steep bank and caught his trousers on the metal saddle horn, tearing them clear up to his beltline. When the boy reached home after dark, he found the Johnsons visiting, Mary among them. Too embarrassed to be seen, young Roy simply peeked in through the window and slipped quietly off to bed. On the farm, life stayed busy. His sister Ruth had her appendix out. His soldier brother Herb came home on leave from Fort Bliss, and grandmother Smith, 65 years old, moved in to lend Eula a helping hand. By the time Roy was a 14-year-old boy, he was the oldest child left at home. His grown brother Louis had started a tillage business with an old John Deere tractor, and his brother Herb had joined the army. So the milking and the chores fell to young Roy. Small as he was, the boy had become a skilled little milker, tending the cows each morning and hauling the heavy milk cans behind a horse named Mola to separate the cream. He joined the Future Farmers of America and learned to mow hay with a team of horses. Both Roy and Mary, still just kids, loved to ride. Mary would gallop past his house at a full run with nothing but a rope around her horse's neck, no saddle at all. When the young boy started at Mesa Union High School, he got a shiny new bicycle and pedaled the 3 miles into town, while Mary walked that same road each morning to attend seminary. One afternoon, the shy boy happened to roll up beside her on his new bicycle and offered her a ride. She accepted. 2 young friends slowly became something more. As Roy himself put it, needless to say, we fell in love at 12 years of age. His was a boyhood of milk pails and horseback rides, of movies and family under the wide Arizona sky. But that is Roy's story. What about Mary?